Good evening, everyone. Hi, welcome to Raise Your Pints. This is Bloodworks Northwest's annual fundraising event gone virtual. And we have a whole lot of science and a whole lot of fun planned for you this evening. Thank you so much for spending your Thursday night with us in support of life-saving blood research. My name is Bhama Roget, and I am so excited to be your host. We are coming to you live from Stoup Brewing in Seattle's Ballard Brewery District. This is the production room where all the yeasty, malty, microorganism magic happens, as you are about to see in our tasting segment. Brewers are really big science geeks, as it turns out. So a big thank you to Stoup Brewing and Nutty, Squirrel, Gelato for partnering on this event. We are here tonight, of course, to come together as a community to support Bloodworks Northwest and specifically to raise critical funds for the Research Institute. You all joining us from home are the key to making sure we raise $300,000 to advance life-saving blood innovation. And there are two ways that you can help tonight. First, we hope everyone joining us will make a financial gift. So many of you are dedicated blood donors, but blood work also needs financial resources to ensure every pint of donated blood is as safe and effective as possible. And to make sure your gifts go even further, we are excited that lifelong blood donor Carrie Chesbrough has committed to matching the first $50,000 in gifts given this evening. That's right. You heard me. Every dollar you give will have double the impact. $100 becomes $200, $500 becomes $1,000. All of us here connected through our screens have the opportunity over the next 90 minutes to do something special, raise funds in support of an organization impacting the community with every pint. So by the end of the night, you'll believe that we are all truly bound by blood. The second way you can support Bloodworks is the online auction. The auction has been going strong all week, and it's going to close at 8 o'clock tonight. And there's some really awesome items you're not going to want to miss. We have a getaway at Three Rivers Casino Resort in Florence, Oregon, where you can dine at 3 restaurants and play 18 holes at their Oregon Dunes golf links while enjoying the beautiful scenery of the Central Oregon coast. Or, for sports fans, cheer on our Seattle Storm from a luxury suite at the Angel of the Winds Arena. The defending WNBA champs take on the Atlanta Dream on Friday, July 2nd. The suite accommodates up to 12 guests and parking included. Boom. And since we all brought our taste buds to the party tonight, I bet we have some wine aficionados in the crowd. One lucky bidder will enjoy 3 magnums of 2009 Syrah from Betts Family Winery. And a very special treat for an art lover is a signed and framed screen print by celebrated American painter Jacob Lawrence. Lawrence's work is in the collections at the Museum of Modern Art and the Whitney Museum. In fact, Seattle Art Museum just hosted an exhibit dedicated to his work, and this is a rare chance to own a signed limited edition print. So these are just a few of the treasures you'll find in the online auction, from travel to sports packages to dining experiences to many one-of-a-kind handmade gifts from our Bloodworks community. There's truly something special for everyone. So to bid or give, just visit bloodworksnw.org/raise your pints, or from your phone, text raise your pints, all one word, to 76278. Now, if this is your first time attending an online fundraiser, we want to make sure this is easy for you. So what I suggest doing is using 2 devices to enjoy this event. First, watch this stream on a bigger screen, like a laptop or smart TV, so you can really see me. And then grab a second screen, like a cell phone or a tablet, to do all your bidding and donating. That way, the program won't be interrupted. And speaking of winning, make sure to check out the virtual photo booth if you are QR code savvy, and I know that you are. Just point your phone your phone's camera at the screen right now, or you can just click the photo booth link on our website at bloodworksnw.org/raiseyourpints. Everyone who posts their photo on social media will be entered to win an awesome prize package, including gift certificates and merchandise from Stoup and Nutty Squirrel. So to be entered to win this fantastic swag, publicly post your photo on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and tag at BloodworksNW with hashtag #RaiseYourPints. Okay, do that. We'll be sharing your posts and choosing a winner at the end of the program. If you have any trouble using technology tonight, no shame. Bloodworks staff are here to help. Just email giving@bloodworksnw.org or call 321-1649 to speak to a friendly staff member who may or may not also be enjoying some pints. So, okay, let's have some fun. Our first guests have the coolest jobs. The head of the Research Institute, Dr. Sumi Paranjapi, recently got to hang out with our Raise Your Pints brewers and gelato maker, and it turns out they have a lot in common. Take a look.
Hi everybody, I'm Sumi with the Bloodworks Research Institute. We're at Stoup Brewing in the Ballard Brewery District. Let's go meet the brewers. It's really nice to meet both of you.
Nice to meet you too. I'm Brad Benson, head brewer and co-owner of Stoup Brewing.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Sumi. My name's Robin Schumacher. I'm a brewer here and also a co-owner.
What inspired you to open Stoup Brewery?
Well, we opened it about 8 years ago now.
We've all had different careers before this started, and I was a high school biology teacher for 13 years.
And I practice forensic chemistry.
That's great that you both have science backgrounds. Science and research are really important at Bloodworks Northwest. How is it important to brewing?
From the science perspective, we really believe in process, making sure that our process stays consistent. And we've added a quality control lab pretty early on.
What do you have to do in the lab, and can you tell me more about your lab?
There are a lot of checks that we do along the way where we're checking gravities with refractometers and checking, or hydrometers and checking pH.
What's a refractometer?
A refractometer is basically, you have a liquid and you shine a light from it and you measure the amount of refraction it does. So usually the denser the liquid, the more the light will refract. And so that gives the brewer an idea of how much potential fermentable material is there.
We take pH measurements also. We have the salometer that we test the viability of the yeast that we're using so that we're pitching the appropriate rates.
And pitching means adding it?
Adding the yeast, yep.
Okay. Does every brewery have their own strains of yeast that they use?
A lot of breweries have patented strains that are there. Some of them share them, but there are yeast banks that are basically companies of microbiologists that their job is to bank, cryogenically freeze all the yeast and be able to prop it up if you want it. So we have probably 3 or 4 yeast banks we work with, and each of them might have 200 different strains of yeast that we can go through.
That's very akin to blood banking in a way. You want to make sure that you have the right types for the right uses. Of course, there are many more strains of yeast than there are types of blood, but that's amazing. So this has been really interesting. Should we go see the lab? So what is this?
These are just little sterile bags, and this is like one of the real simple tests that we do in the brewery is that we'll collect a sample of the wort before we pitch in the yeast, and we do it in a sanitary manner, and then we basically look at this pack. After 3 days, we see if there's any signs of fermentation. So if it starts to cloud up or the pack starts to bulge out like it's fermenting and putting off CO2, then we'll go back and do another layer of lab work to see if really there is a contamination in the beer.
It looks like you have a whole tray of beer too. Are you starting, is this your second breakfast, Tyler?
Not my second breakfast, no. But it is all the beer that we have in tank right now. So we do collect pH samples. If we see that the pH is too low, maybe that's another sign of contamination. If it's too low, it could be some kind of bacteria souring the beer, and that's not something we want. Then we know to check that beer later and see if there's maybe some kind of contamination in there. This is our cellometer.
We use it to count yeast cells, but the technology was originally developed to count blood cells. So I think that's kind of cool that it was originally to help in the medical field, but us crafty brewers have taken it and applied it to the brewing industry.
Well, on behalf of Bloodworks Northwest, we're very grateful for all that you're doing for this benefit and all that you've done for Bloodworks Northwest in the past and hopefully in the future.
Yeah.
It's our pleasure.
Hey everybody, we're here at Nutty Squirrel Gelato in Magnolia Village. I can't wait for you to head inside. We've got a lot in store for you.
Hi, this is Tolga Seyman. I'm the founder and co-owner of Nutty Squirrel Gelato. This is our flagship store at the moment and also our main kitchens. Behind these walls, we actually produce everything, stock, store, and distribute from here on. This store has been in action over 4 years now. All the fun things takes place here.
How do you decide on the flavors that you're going to make?
We take pride in the tradition of gelato. There's certain things that are within tradition and certain things are obviously all American. And putting the tradition and all American together and hashing them in a pleasant way and syncing with the community, syncing with our beautiful Washington, it really comes kind of naturally. We source every ingredient locally.
That's great. Community, I think, is so important right now as we're coming off of the pandemic.
Thanks to our community, we're here today because of them. And being able to engage with each other, being able to support each other, we receive immense help and support from the communities that we're in. We were able to connect with them in the fundraisers and helping the community. And it's two-way street. Yeah. It's everything that you do comes back in a multiple fold in our beautiful communities.
Blood banking is very much the same way. So it's really nice to be able to talk to you about this and to be able to get a sense of how everything fits together. I'd love to see a little bit more. Can you show us how you make all of these flavors, where all the magic starts?
Absolutely.
So it's great to be back in the kitchen where all of the dreams start. Can you tell me what the difference between ice cream and gelato is?
The most simplified version is cream is in ice cream and milk is in gelato. End results are denser structure compared to ice cream. Secondly is water formation, water activity, which is also ice, is gelato's nemesis. We don't like ice formation. Therefore, end result is much creamier and denser. And the last thing is, because of its structure, gelato is served at a temperature, ice cream is actually in liquid consistency. What that means for a consumer is that the first interaction, the first palate of gelato is much warmer than ice cream. And warmer that is receptacles actually receiving more flavors forward, rather than numbing sensation.
That's amazing. There's a lot of science involved in making gelato, it sounds like. So you have really a dream job here. What is it that you love most about being able to make gelato?
The ceremony. I love making it simple ceremony of traditional gelato making.
So it kind of brings you back to home because you're able to make gelato here.
It has its own rhythm, and which is soothing. I consider that as a meditation.
Do you have a favorite flavor?
Pistachio.
That's a good choice. Mine is the lemon cookie. That is so good.
I can continue talking about gelato all day, but it's time for us to go taste some. I hope you guys enjoy the flavors that we select for you guys, and enjoy.
I can't wait to taste it. Thanks, everybody. We're going to go try it out now.
I've got to say, I had no idea how much science went into bring in tasty treats to our community. How cool is that? You can use the same blood cell counting machine to count yeast for beer. Who knew? Well, we've had some particularly warm days here in the Pacific Northwest this week, and I can't think of a better combination to enjoy in this weather than a cold beer and a frosty scoop of gelato. So, let the eating begin. Now that we know what goes into these delicious products, it's time to try them for yourselves. So here to walk you through the flavors in your tasting boxes are Stoup's Brad Benson and Nutty Squirrel's Tolga Seyman.
Now you've got your beer.
And your gelato, so it's time to taste.
We're really excited to be working with Bloodworks, and we're going to get into the beers that are in your box. The first one is a German-style Pilsner. When Stoup opened in 2013, this was one of our flagship beers. We opened up with this and an IPA, and so we've been brewing it the full 8 years that we've been open. It is kind of the German tradition of brewing, so it's a lager. It's light and crisp. It finishes with a dry bit of crackery bitterness to it. It should be brilliantly bright, no cloudiness at all to it. So in a good Pilsner like this, you should get a little wisp of sulfur in the nose, which is really characteristic that you're dealing with a lager and not an ale. This one runs about 5% alcohol. You will get that little bit of wisp of sulfur and a little bit of noble hop character in the nose. It's again, it's quite a dry beer, and the bitterness is really there to kind of balance out the sweetness. So one of the things I really love about this beer is really the balance in it. That you've got the sweetness from the malt, but you've got just enough bitterness there to really carry it through, and it's kind of one of those beers that begs you to come back and have a second sip. The second beer that should be in your box today is our flagship IPA, Citra IPA. It's moderate in alcohol. It's only about 6%, and you'll see some IPAs climbing up into the mid 7s. We really designed this beer to be a kind of one of your everyday drinkers. Really easy to drink, but a hop-forward beer. It has a lot of citrus character, but there's no citrus actually in it. That all comes from a hop that's called Citra. And this beer originally was not a flagship beer. It was a seasonal that we did in the summer. And when it ran out, people kept wanting more of it. So we went back and kept brewing it. And now it's been a year-round staple for us for probably the last 5 years. So again, it's a Northwest IPA, so it's bright. It's not hazy. We designed it this way. We really like the way these beers drink, where they're crisp again. But this one has a little bit more bitterness than the Pilsner will have. It's an ale, so you're gonna get some fruity esters in the nose that work really well with the Citra hops. And the last beer that we have in your box today is a beer we did specifically for this and with our collaboration with Bloodworks and Nutty Squirrel. It's a raspberry Berliner Weiss. It's very low in alcohol, about 4%. Half of the grist, which is the malt that we use, is wheat, and half is barley. And it runs about 4% alcohol. So it's got a nice pink color to it. It is tart, so there is some lactic acid character to it, which is traditional in these styles of beers. It's super refreshing. I think you're all going to really enjoy this one. And now let's go to Tolga and talk about some gelato.
Thank you, Brad. Now we get to the gelato part of your package. We want to start with the raspberry Berliner Weiss. When we worked on this flavor, we worked based on Brad's creation. Stoup did a fantastic job with putting together this Weiss beer. Addition of raspberry and then the yeast, it's sour, it's exceptional. What we wanted to do with this one, turn it into a dessert for you guys in a sorbetto format. The reason why we chose sorbetto was to not add too many ingredients, keep its purity and then flavor profile, because it was exceptional. What we will find is not too sweet, and also when you enjoy this, it's going to be far easier to pair with other things because it's going to keep its simplicity. In addition to that, we're going to have a little bit more chunky raspberry pieces in your sorbet. I hope you guys enjoy it. Goes without saying, it's a vegan finished product. Second flavor that we want to talk about is our all-time favorite. We've been doing this business for over a decade now, and then flavor that always resonated in all locations and most popular was always our French butter caramel with a little bit of sea salt. Our process in creating this was basically using that most original French caramel. And French caramel that is created with French butter. And instead of using inside the gelato formation, we used French butter, which gave it this thick tanning in the flavor. You will find it's really decadent, but delicate at the same time when you pair it with other things. I feel it pairs really well with IPAs. I hope you guys enjoy it. The last flavor we wanted to talk about today is the lemon custard cookies. This flavor was created by us about 8 years ago. When I wrote this one, it was basically the childhood. These are the cookies that I grew up with. Lemon custard filled little cookies. Absolutely extraordinary. It tastes like childhood to me. Citrusy, buttery, amazing texture. What we have done is once the cookies are added inside, makes it exceptional, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. It is really easy to pair with because of the citrusy. So I would try pairing with the other flavors as well. I hope you guys enjoy the gelato, and thanks for joining us.
Oh my God. So good. Are you eating this? I can't choose. Brad just brewed this Berliner Weiss just for us, and then Tolga turned it into a dessert. I'm losing my mind. This beer dessert is my favorite. I want to put this in here and then in here. I hope that's what you're doing. You were all the first to try this, by the way, and Stoup will be releasing it at the brewery soon, so bring your friends to enjoy safely. Both Stoup and Nutty Squirrel have some really fun items in the auction. You won't want to miss it, and don't forget to visit Raise Your Pints photo booth and post your photo to social media to be entered to win gift certificates and merchandise from our tasting partners as well, because more beer and gelato is better than less beer and gelato. So to visit the photo booth, click the photo booth button on our website at bloodworksnw.org/raiseyourpints. A special thank you to all of the businesses and individuals who donated this year to this year's auction, and you can see them on the screen. Please support these small and local businesses to thank them for their contributions towards such a worthwhile cause. As a reminder, the auction ends shortly after 8 p.m. And so to bid, visit bloodworksnorthwest.org/raiseyourpints or text Raise Your Pints to 76278. And then you'll receive a text with a link that will take you directly to the bidding page. So now that we've begun to satisfy our bellies, it's time to fill up our brains with a healthy dose of science. If you're just joining us, thank you for being here. My name is Bhama Roget, and I'll be your host this evening as we explore the life-saving power of blood. And tonight's event is all about celebrating the great work that Bloodworks Northwest does in our community, and specifically to raise critical funds for the Research Institute. Most of us know Bloodworks as our regional blood center, the blood mobiles that would roll up outside our pre-pandemic office buildings for the annual blood drive, the organization that responds when there's a community or nationwide medical crisis. But what you might not know is that the Research Institute has been discovering and developing medical advancements to save lives for more than 70 years. And among the first research organizations to focus on blood biology, transfusion, and transplantation research, these investigators solve real-world clinical problems and improve patient care. So tonight, we introduce you to some of the scientists that define scientific excellence at Bloodworks Research Institute to tell you more about the incredible work happening right here in our own backyard. So here's Bloodworks President and CEO, Kurt Bailey, and Chief Scientific Officer, Dr. Jose Lopez.
From our very start, scientific research has been a vital component of our mission. Shortly after the end of World War II, Bloodworks, then King County Blood Bank, was called on by our community to perform two critical functions. First, to collect and distribute blood to patients in local hospitals, and secondly, to spearhead research to improve blood safety and storage. What began 8 decades ago has grown into the Bloodworks Research Institute, a national center for excellence in blood biology and transfusion medicine. Today, our scientists work tirelessly to answer real-world questions, from how we control bleeding to how we make blood transfusion ever safer. Our work has made possible bone marrow transplants for cancer patients and given patients with bleeding and blood disorders many more healthy years with their loved ones. Our research spans from basic science to clinical medicine, moving our discoveries from our labs to the clinic. And behind it all, patients remain the driving force, just like everything we do here. As we look forward to the future of research at Bloodworks, I'm delighted to introduce you to the scientist who will be leading us there, Dr. Jose Lopez.
My path to becoming a scientist started very early. I have a memory of when I was in 4th grade reading a little science magazine in which they were discussing these particles called tachyons that traveled faster than the speed of light. In that thing it said scientists are studying the possibility that they exist or something, and that just kind of struck me. Who are these people that get to think about that amazing stuff? I didn't think then that I would ever become a scientist, but it really got me to admire it. Blood research is important because blood is vital to everything. It basically influences every physiologic process in the body. It perfuses every organ and every tissue except for our corneas. Blood is really remarkable. The strengths of the Research Institute, in my opinion, are our intimate knowledge of the biology of platelets and of blood clotting. We also have a lot of strength in the biology of endothelial cells, which are the cells that line the blood vessels and which I consider blood cells that don't circulate. We are probably one of the best groups in the world to understand these things. The group of investigators that we have is collaborative. It's a team. They work together, and together they are much more than the sum of the parts.
Like Dr. Lopez said, blood is truly vital to everything. How fantastic is it that we have some of the world's leading experts here at our local blood center? An event like this can't happen without early investment and a strong community, and we're proud to partner with the organizations displayed on this screen who are united with us in the common goal of ensuring a safe and reliable blood supply in the Pacific Northwest. We're particularly thankful to CSL Behring, our diamond sponsor and partner in this work for over 18 years. Our gold sponsors, Swedish and USI Insurance, have been essential partners over the last 2 decades. And another huge thank you to our community partners. Let's toast to them. It's a good idea. As a reminder, a generous blood and financial donor, Carrie Chesbro, is matching all gifts made tonight up to $50,000. We just got a $1,000 gift. That's $2,000 now. We are more than two-thirds of the way to meeting our goal. So $300,000 to support Bloodworks Research Institute and the groundbreaking work being done by the scientists you'll hear about tonight is what we're talking about. So to make your contribution, visit bloodworksnw.org/raiseyourpints or text Raise Your Pints, all one word, to 76278. We can do it. We can do this. And one of the added bonuses of an evening like tonight is that you don't have to be based here in Seattle to attend. Bloodworks serves donors and patients all across Western Washington and Oregon, and I'm so glad that we can all be here together tonight to make a difference. So to celebrate the donors from across our service region tonight, we organized a little virtual happy hour between Eugene, Oregon-based donor Dan Ertl and Bloodworks researcher Dr. Moritz Stola. Let's listen in.
At Bloodworks Research Institute, Dr. Moritz Stola leads a team of scientists who are studying platelets, the small blood cells in our body that help control bleeding. Moritz got the chance to sit down virtually with Dan Ertel, a Eugene-based platelet donor who has made an incredible 479 blood donations over the last 37 years. Let's listen in as Dan and Moritz raise a pint to the platelets that connect them.
Hi Dan, how you doing?
Great, Moritz, thank you, and I'm doing fine, thank you. It's a pleasure to finally meet you.
Thanks for all the donations, for all the platelet donations that you do.
I'm happy to help.
Yeah, it's greatly appreciated by all the transfusion medicine physicians and all the patients and all the recipients of these transfusions. So you're drinking a beer? Cheers.
I believe Prost is the appropriate term for a German.
That's correct, yes. It's actually in Munich that I got first interested in platelets because I had a thesis advisor who was studying how they contribute to clotting in heart attacks.
Well, and aren't platelets given to people that are, they can go to people that have leukemia or undergoing radiation, chemotherapy?
Yes, exactly. So these patients have trouble producing platelets, so they don't make enough. So we substitute them with the transfusions. And this is a life-saving procedure for them because they don't make them themselves. So they rely on donors like you.
Well, I'm happy to help as long as I can. I figure you probably have about 20 more years of platelet donations from me.
Yeah, that's good. I appreciate it.
I grew up in a military family, and anything you can do to help improve the survivability of people that are injured in combat, that's kind of like icing on the cake for me to be able to help.
We have so many exciting new products that we could potentially use and benefit warfighters in far forward military scenarios. Because as you know, platelets outdate after 5 to 7 days. But if you have an approach where you could store them for maybe up to 2 weeks or 3 weeks even, or even for years, then this would be incredibly helpful for far forward military scenarios and more rural areas where we give transfusions as well.
Yes. Yep.
As Dan and Moritz continued their conversation, a surprise guest joined the call. Meet platelet recipient Mac Bell.
Hi there, my name is Mac. Back in 2016, I came down with something called aplastic anemia, where my bone marrow essentially died, and my body wasn't producing blood cells. And so I was receiving platelet transfusions, and I would have never made it to my bone marrow transplant without people like you who were willing to donate their blood cells and be heroes. And so I just want to take a moment and appreciate your donation and all the lives that you helped, and you're a hero, Dan.
I appreciate that, Mac. I know that there are stories like yours, but hearing from you is really meaningful.
I just wanted to say thank you for sharing that also, because I mean, I'm also, in addition to studying platelets, I'm taking care of platelet transfusions for patients. So we rarely interact with them after they're not patients anymore, right? So they made it through their disease and their bone marrow transplant. So I never really talked to these patients again. So thanks for sharing that story with me too. It's really a remarkable story.
And I would have never made it through those treatments without that donation. Those donations that were given to me.
Well, I'm sorry you had to go through that, but I'm super happy to hear that you're doing better. And stories like this is what keeps me donating. And I'll donate until I can't.
Blood, platelet, and plasma donors play a vital role in healthcare and directly improve the health of their own community, and they usually never know the impact they've had on their own neighbors. A heartfelt thank you to anyone joining us tonight who has ever donated blood, attempted to donate blood, or received blood. We're all in this together. Dr. Stolla and his peers wouldn't be able to do their work without access to these blood products, but they also wouldn't be able to do the innovative research they are known for without consistent financial support. And speaking of discovery, let's meet Dr. Jill Johnson, the perfect intersection of innovation, research, and real-world application. Our next segment demonstrates that without scientific playgrounds like the Research Institute and financial supporters like you, some life-saving inventions just wouldn't be discovered. Let's take a look at how Dr. Johnson and her team plan to make healthcare a safer place for patients.
When a patient needs a blood transfusion, it takes time to determine their blood type. While they wait, doctors have to rely on universal type O blood, which is in constant short supply and should be reserved for true emergencies. As a hematologist who regularly sees patients, Bloodworks Research Institute's Dr. Jill Johnson had always just accepted the way blood typing was done.
The problem is that blood typing is around 100-year-old technology. It's taking blood and you're putting it together with plasma or serum or antibodies, and you're saying, does this clump or not clump? And that's what you use to figure out someone's blood type. And it takes a long time, and it takes a large blood volume, and it has to be done in specialized labs. All of that adds time between when I wish they had their blood type and when I actually know it. And I had gotten used to that. I had just really gotten used to the idea that we needed to have a universal donor at all. We need the universal donor because we don't know the blood type.
That is until one fateful day over a decade ago when Jill met Dr. Dan Ratner, a bioengineer at the University of Washington. Jill and Dan put an idea into motion that is set to transform transfusions. It's rapid, near-patient blood typing on a silicon chip.
The idea for this technology started in a conference room in the middle of the week where Dan and I and some other scientists were sitting there, and we were talking about how can we collaborate together on this new technology that he had and some biology that I studied. And it was a thunderbolt moment where someone in the room said, can this thing be a blood cell?
In defining whether you're an A or a B, AB or O, these are actually sugars. And so Jill and I both had interest in sugars. We were making technologies in my lab at the University of Washington to look at the relationship between different cells in these sugars. And so the translation into the space of blood group typing was really natural and frankly organic. And for me, the most exciting thing in working with Jill was getting to peek behind the curtain at all that's involved in actually safely giving patients blood products. It's an amazing endeavor. It's complicated, it's hard work, and it's critical to the backbone of emergency medicine.
Jill and Dan took advantage of a well-used technology from the telecom industry to develop their blood typing chip. By flowing a small sample of blood over tiny sensors, they found that it was possible to quickly, easily, and inexpensively determine a patient's blood type.
So the technology that Jill and I are developing is based on something called silicon nanophotonics. Now this is actually, it sounds fancier than it really is. What it is just like the microchip that's in your computer, in your cell phone, but it does one thing key that's different. It uses light as opposed to electrons. And so by putting the right chemistry on these photonic circuits, we can ask questions about what molecules are present in a sample. Or in the case of blood typing, we can ask, for instance, does the patient have an antibody in circulation that might react with a specific blood type? Or do they have a specific blood type on their cells?
With results returned in minutes instead of hours, their invention will allow doctors to better utilize our blood supply, conserving type O blood for the patients who really need it.
Not having to rely on universal donors so much would be transformative to the blood supply. The whole blood supply is oriented around making sure we don't run out of this one precious thing, which is actually a kind of not common blood type. And we would be able to manage inventories in a way where the rare units are being reserved for the people that really need it.
I think in our case, when working with Jill and myself, what was so exciting was having an opportunity to look at something that we all take for granted and to see the opportunity to make it better.
Today, Jill and Dan's invention is the basis of a new company known as Cydex, who are setting out to modernize blood testing. Cydex was co-founded by Jill, Dan, and entrepreneur Eric Larson.
Cydex is a medical diagnostic company developing rapid blood typing technology where we expect to be able to get a blood type back on a patient in about 5 minutes.
What our technology will allow us to actually have an instrument very close to the patient where they can put a sample into the instrument, get a blood type back much more quickly, which will mean they can move to type-specific blood much more quickly.
CEO Eric Larson envisions Cydex instruments in every doctor's office and hospital in the future, with portable versions saving lives in military settings and during natural disasters.
We have 64 different sensing areas on our chips today, so we can detect multiple different conditions simultaneously with the same sample. And that's really unique among the diagnostics that I see today.
You can imagine in disaster relief or in military indications where you might want to screen donors very quickly to try to add to the blood supply, or in prenatal care where you might want to get both a patient's blood type and information on what diseases they might have been exposed to.
Dr. Johnson recognizes that Cydex would never have come to be if she wasn't a researcher at Bloodworks.
I would never have thought, or the other scientists in the room who were really critical, none of us would have thought to say, we're having this conversation about detecting viruses and bacteria, to say, I know in the back of my mind that blood typing is a problem, and can you see a blood cell? Like, that connection would just never have been made if the scientists had not been in a blood center.
It's so amazing, isn't it, to hear about the technologies that are being developed right now through the collaboration of so many really smart people. But it's also really mind-blowing to think of the ways that these current innovations will lead to so many more breakthroughs over the coming decades, whether it's a cancer patient who needs platelet transfusions, a mother in labor, or a trauma victim who has to undergo emergency surgery. The need for blood can happen to anyone at any time. And for a long time, blood and financial donors Ron and Susan Runyon, that day came unexpectedly 4 years ago. Today, the Runyons continue to generously support Bloodworks financially, in large part because of their incredibly personal connection to the research of Dr. Jing Fei Dong. This is their story.
My story started April 9th, 4 years ago. We were out riding our bicycles.
We were going to go out on what is a pretty typical ride for us, about a 30-mile ride on our road bikes.
Yes, I had a helmet on. Somehow, I just came down. I just crashed to the right side.
I've been cycling for 25 years, and it was an accident like I've not really ever seen before when Susan went over.
I can't remember going down. I remember riding it, and then for the next 5 months, I hardly remembered anything. It took over 6 months in the hospital, go through 5 surgeries. When I came home, I couldn't even write my own name. I couldn't speak, I couldn't sing, which I had done so many things. Everything stopped for me.
Trauma kills more people than cancer and cardiovascular disease combined. And what kills most? Trauma patients, 70% of them die or become disabled because of bleeding or related complications. These are normal people. They're healthy, they're energetic, they're in their most productive year. All of a sudden, it's just that split second, you're in trouble or dead. TBI used to carry very high mortality, but now our treatment and diagnosis improves so much. People survive longer or more people survive. Now the question becomes, the secondary issue become big problem. 30 years ago, people don't pay a whole lot of attention to what happened. A small injury in the brain can cause you a lung problem, your heart problem, and a problem in your kidneys. These are called secondary injuries. And the media for these secondary injury is through blood cells. That's the interaction here. Our research is focused on the interactions between the brain cells and blood cells to stop bleeding first and then cause so-called secondary injury in the brain and also other part of the organ. Bloodworks is a special place. We have the expertise. We have a very strong and collaborative environment in which research can be done successfully. So we are looking at much higher productivity in this research environment.
Well, I think it's so important that people support Bloodworks because it's just so vital, the work that gets done. It's more than a regional blood bank. That was a huge eye-opener for Susan and I about a decade ago, that all the research and all the advances that come from it, it's just vital for us as a society.
I can do so much more. I could hardly walk when I came home. It was with a cane. Then I could walk. After a few months, I could walk. Then I could start running, and I can do a half marathon now. Not as fast as I used to before the accident, but I can actually do a half marathon. Every day is a gift. I have to say that because it's just amazing. I want to keep moving and to help other people know that even though they think things aren't so good for themselves, keep trying, tiny by tiny by tiny, because it works. After 4 years, I can do a whole lot more. I'm speaking today, even though it didn't happen at all 4 years ago. It's so important that we continue to contribute and speak to other people we know that said, yes, Bloodworks is amazing. I am so lucky to be alive, and I'm very happy to be here with you.
Wow, what a beautiful story of recovery and resilience, and what a wonderful testament to the power of blood research, helping to transform the outcome for patients facing life-threatening injuries. What tonight has taught me is that blood research is essential to everything, far beyond just those who need a blood transfusion, because Bloodworks researchers are asking how blood influences health in every disease, from cancer to cardiovascular disease to COVID-19. And by coupling your generosity with the brilliance of our scientists, we are unleashing the power to advance human health and ensuring that our community is ready. Ready when emergencies strike, ready when breakthroughs are made, and when prayers are answered. Tonight, you've heard from some of the most qualified experts in blood science about their work. You've heard from Dr. Moritz Stolla about extending the shelf life of platelets for transfusion and the impact of those transfusions from donor to patient. You've heard how Dr. Jill Johnson's research is revolutionizing the way we type blood, strengthening our blood supply and saving lives. You've heard how Dr. Jingfei Dong is changing the narrative for traumatic brain injury survivors. And with your support, Bloodworks researchers will be able to accomplish so much more to improve the quality and stability of blood. And every gift made tonight will directly support this life-saving research. And now, a final message from several members of the Bloodworks community: a researcher, a doctor, a patient, and a supporter.
At Bloodworks Northwest, we are all bound by blood.
Bound by our shared goal of saving lives.
Bound by our desire to make the impossible possible.
Bound by our resilience.
Bound by our belief in the power of science.
Not all of us are able to give the gift of blood, but we can all receive it.
Because we all deserve to have access to the best treatments made possible by scientific research.
So tonight, I invite you to invest in our future and give a financial gift. Give the gift of science, of exploration and discovery, of more healthy years with our loved ones.
Diagnósticos innovadores, recuperación, respuestas a las preguntas más difíciles sobre medicina.
Give the gift of new cures in time, of safer hospital procedures. Give the gift of hope.
My name is Dr. Sumi Pranjape, and I pursue scientific excellence at Bloodworks.
Soy Josefina Fernández McAvoy, y me siento muy orgullosa de la misión de Bloodworks Northwest, salvar vidas y avanzar la ciencia.
My name is Dr. Ashley Ellis, and I see your life-saving gifts in action every day at Bloodworks.
My name is Molly Firth, and Bloodworks saved my life, which is why we give back in our family.
From our family to yours.
De nuestra familia a su familia. Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope that everyone joining us tonight is inspired to make a financial gift at a level that's meaningful to you. Your gift tonight will continue a legacy of scientific excellence at Bloodworks Research Institute that has spanned nearly 8 decades. Over the years, Bloodworks Research Institute has pioneered new treatments and standards of care for people living with bleeding disorders, made bone marrow transplants possible for people who are battling cancer, made great strides in improving how we type and store blood, and also bettered our understanding of the biochemistry of blood, providing the scientific basis for new treatments and diagnostics beyond what you've heard this evening. Your gift will also give our researchers the opportunity to explore new challenges on the frontiers of blood science, from COVID-19 to gene therapy to sepsis. And as medicine continues to evolve and new challenges to the health of our community arise, your support of Bloodworks Research Institute will allow our community to remain always ready for new treatments, ready for advancements in patient care, ready for recovery, and ready for what's to come. And remember, gifts made tonight will have twice the impact on our research efforts thanks to our matching opportunity. All gifts will be matched up to $50,000. Please help us reach our $300,000 goal. We're already at $245,075. Thank you to everyone who's already generously supported the Research Institute tonight. And even if you don't win your favorite auction item tonight, you could still be our winner of the beer and gelato giveaway. Everyone who shared their photo booth pics with the hashtag #RaiseYourPints was entered, and the one lucky person will win gift certificates and merchandise from Stoup Brewing and Nutty, Squirrel, Gelato. So let's check out some of the shots of everyone out there enjoying the evening from home. Julie Wicks. Look at you. Look at you. We got pints raised. We got the dog in there. We saw an Elvis doll earlier. Way to show up for this, everybody. Well done. And you look fabulous, by the way. However, it is time to choose our winner. So can I get a drum roll, please? Nice. And the winner is at Julie Wicks on Instagram. At Julie Wicks on Instagram. Congratulations, Julie. Staff from Bloodworks is going to reach out to you soon with your prize. So, yay for you. And we have one more amazing story to share, but first I want to say how grateful we are to everyone who made this non-traditional evening possible. Thanks to our hosts, Stoup Brewing and Nutty, Squirrel, Gelato. If you're in the Seattle or Kenmore area, I highly recommend an in-person visit to their locations for many more amazing flavors. And another thanks to Bloodworks community partners who've joined together to support the Research Institute and make this evening's event possible. We appreciate these organizations' ongoing commitment to the health of the community. And also thank you to everyone who appeared in our videos tonight, particularly the scientists of the Research Institute, for sharing their work with us. They've dedicated their careers to saving lives, and there aren't words to properly express our gratitude. And of course, to all of you for making the everyday possible. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your gifts of life, of hope, and of the future. Your support is so critical to what Bloodworks can do for our community. And now, We will leave you with a story that Bloodworks planned to share at the 2020 Bloodworks Ball before the pandemic canceled the event. This video features one of Bloodworks' own staff, Sue Nixon, whose life was saved by work done by Bloodworks researchers. And we shared this video online last year, and it has since been nominated for a Northwest Emmy Award. Here's Sue's story.
Valentine's Day 2007. It was about 11 o'clock in the morning, and I was driving up the hill on Lynn Street and had a cardiac arrest. It just was completely out of the blue. A nurse was driving by. She had unexpectedly had the day off. She pulled me out of the car and started doing CPR. You know, thinking back on it, the most humbling thing is that 3 minutes before I was in my home alone, 3 minutes later, I would have been on I-5 driving 60 miles an hour. If I would have had my cardiac arrest on either of those ends of that timeline, I wouldn't have made it. When the medics arrived on the scene, they had to shred my clothes to restart my heart. I have the coat that they cut off of me. And every February, I hang it in my home so that I can see it and remember and just realize how the things we think are powerful can go away in a second and are displaced by the things that are truly powerful. In 2016, I joined Bloodworks in their marketing department. The main reason why I took the job was having been a person whose life has been saved, to be in a job where I can help that thing happen for people over and over again. That seemed like a job I wanted to do. When I talked to my surgeon, he said, we need to get you in to see a hematologist just to see what's going on. And I smiled knowing I work for Bloodworks and we've got the best hematologists in the nation, in my opinion. So I came back the next day to work and had an appointment set up with Dr. Barb Conkle. She checked me out, and it turns out that I had acquired von Willebrand's disorder, which is something that our researchers have been studying for years. It turns out I acquire something that our researchers have been studying so that I could go into a pretty challenging surgery knowing I needed extra support and completely equipped to handle that. I received 3 different blood products from Bloodworks to aid me in clotting because my blood wasn't able to do what it normally would do. I've always thought it's cool that we do research. I never thought it would impact me personally. Pretty amazing way to tie it all together. A couple days before Christmas, my neighbor had fallen and needed some help, so we called 911. 3 firefighters and a medic showed up, and as they were leaving, I thanked them for saving my life 13 years ago. One firefighter turned around and she said, You were on Lynn Street, about 2/3 of the way up, and you were wearing a black jacket with kind of a leopard lining. And I was just blown away. I'm like, how do you remember this? And she said, I was there. It was so amazing to have a chance to meet Firefighter Queen and get to know her a bit. We don't ever realize we're going to need help. And when we do, the fact that somebody has made a choice to be there at that time is really powerful. And then thinking about Bloodworks and the fact that they make it possible for all of us to be showing up on the scene to save lives. Whether it's a blood donor who's donating to a patient who needs it, or whether it is a cure, a diagnosis that needs to be researched, and we need people dedicating their lives to make that happen, Bloodworks makes that possible, and I am so honored to be a part of it. I've always loved the word serendipity. It comes back to me so often when I think about my story. All of the people and the interconnections and the serendipity that has happened for me to still be here. I've been the recipient of those things, and if I could spend the rest of my life trying to be just a bit of that for other people, that would feel like a life well lived.
That story began with the words, "Invisible threads are the strongest ties." And that's what this evening is all about. We are all bound by blood, donors, patients, doctors, scientists, and community partners alike. And each of you holds a critical place in the Bloodworks community. So let's see how we've done towards our fundraising goal. So far, we have raised $285,105 so that more lives like Max, Susan's, Molly's, and Sue's will be saved in the future, and the donations continue to come in. We are so close. Thank you, everyone, for your contributions. No gift is too small. Just keep those donations coming in. And if you work for Boeing, Microsoft, or one of the many companies that have employer matching programs, please make sure to submit your request for your company to increase your contribution to Bloodworks. Employer matching gifts provide thousands of dollars in additional revenue that will help tonight's proceeds go so much further. And there's still time to support Bloodworks through the auction, which closes at 8 p.m. So if you haven't placed your bids yet, now is the time. And a hot auction tip, Sue Nixon has donated a dinner for 6 at her beautiful Lake Union houseboat, the very one featured in that video. So if you enjoyed tonight's event, please share the recording with your friends and family, neighbors and coworkers, or anyone who may want to learn more about Bloodworks Northwest's research, including how to say it. And thank you for being with us to celebrate pint-sized wonders, both tasty and miraculous. Cheers and good night. Here's to all of you and the ties that bind us. That is so good, though. So good.